Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had a rough day on Capitol Hill. He showed up to testify before the Senate, and instead of a smooth hearing, he walked straight into a buzzsaw. And yes, a big part of that buzzsaw was his connection to Jeffrey Epstein.
People about your interactions with Epstein?
Did you have any financial involvement with Jeffrey Epstein?
Why did you keep contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he pled guilty to sex crimes?
Come on, give us some space.
What do you say to the Democrats calling on for you to resign?
Give us some space.
Mr. Epstein, people of your level in the British government have been forced to resign. Will you resign?
Give us some space. Give us some space.
Why did you keep contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he pled guilty?
I look forward to testifying today.
Did you mischaracterize your relationship with him?
Some space.
Why did you say you found him gross but still kept in contact with him?
What do you say to those who are calling for you to resign now?
Are you willing to speak to Congress about this?
I'm going to speak to Congress right now.
Do you expect to be asked about Epstein?
Here's the problem. For years, Lutnick has told a very specific story. According to him, he had exactly one interaction with Epstein back in 2005 after buying a townhouse next door in New York City. He says Epstein invited him over for coffee, gave him a tour, opened the doors to a room with a massage table surrounded by candles, leaned in close, said something creepy about the right kind of massage, and Lutnick and his wife practically sprinted back to their own house. His version? I was disgusted, never spoke to him again, one and done.
Lutnick, I think you understand the root of concern here. It's the way you described very emphatically your first encounter with him in his apartment, said you were disgusted, would never have any contact with him again. Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it, but
Mr. Secretary, again, as I said,
That's been the line. But then the Epstein files came out, and suddenly one and done started looking more like 8 and counting. According to the records, there were multiple interactions after 2005, including a 2012 trip where Lutnick, his wife, their children, and their nannies had lunch on Epstein's private island. Yes, that island, the one we now know was the site of child sex trafficking. That alone raised eyebrows. Then came references to meetings, drinks in New York, coordinated visits, shared investments, email exchanges, and even questions about a possible nanny connection. Not exactly never in the same room again.
Secretary Lutnick, as I said in my opening statement, you led people to believe that you had cut off all contact with Jeffrey Epstein after the 2005 encounter you and your wife had in his apartment. But as I'm sure you know, the Epstein files show a very different record of interaction. Why do the Epstein files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012?
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to be here to make it clear that I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York, right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him. And then a year and a half after that, I met him, and never again. Probably the total, and you've seen all of these documents, of these millions and millions of documents, there may be 10 emails connecting me with him, probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person. Okay?
Secretary Lutnick, questions I have before we close. One is just to follow up on one of your responses with respect to the Epstein files, specifically the visit you and your family took to Epstein's private island in 2012. And I think you also said you went on his yacht. Is that right? Or boat? No.
No.
Okay.
They didn't say that.
At that time, I think you mentioned that you were accompanied by your wife and kids and nannies. My question is, do you know whether the nanny that you had on that trip was the same nanny that Jeffrey Epstein expressed interest in meeting?
No, I have no idea about that whole thing. I mean, I don't recall it having anything to do with me, and I don't know that.
It's just, this guy was a convicted sex offender and obviously not a great place for kids and nannies. Was Ghislaine Maxwell on the island at that time?
No.
The fact that you believe that you misled the country and the Congress based on your earlier statements, suggesting that you cut off all contact when in fact you had not. When you visited the private island, did you see anything inappropriate during that visit?
The only thing I saw with my wife and my children and the other couple and their children was staff who worked for Mr. Epstein on that island.
And you realize that, this visit took place after he'd been convicted, right? I mean, you made a very big point of saying that you sensed that this was a bad person in 2005. And then, of course, in 2008, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution of a minor. And yet you went and had this trip and other interactions. Did you have a dinner in Epstein's New York City home in 2011?
No.
So the information that suggests that there was a dinner with Woody Allen and Woody Allen's spouse at the Epstein residence, there's nothing to that. Is that right?
I actually don't know what you're referring to. There was, look, I looked through the millions of documents for my name, just like everybody else. Yeah. And what I found was there was a document that says that I had a meeting with him in May, I think, for an hour at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Not dinner or otherwise, for an hour at 5 o'clock.
All right.
So when Lutnick arrived at the Senate, reporters were waiting. Why did you stay in contact after he pled guilty? Did you mislead people about your relationship? Did you go to the island? Are you going to resign? Lutnick's response? Give us some space. I look forward to testifying. I'm going to speak to Congress right now. Translation, not today, reporters. Inside the hearing, Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen got right to the point. If you were so disgusted in 2005, why were you on Epstein's Island in 2012? Lutnick admitted he had lunch there but framed it as a quick stop during a family vacation. Wife present, kids present, nannies present, another family there too, 1 hour, in and out. Nothing inappropriate, just staff on the island. He said he didn't recall why they stopped, just did. That answer didn't exactly calm the room. Van Hollen pressed further. Why do the files show coordinated meetings? Why do emails suggest more contact? Why were there references to exchanging nannies? Lutnick's defense boiled down to this. Over 14 years, I met him 3 times. Maybe 10 emails total, no relationship, no acquaintance, nothing remotely wrong. But senators pointed out something uncomfortable. Last year, he publicly claimed he cut off all contact in 2005. The documents suggest otherwise. That contradiction is what's fueling the controversy.
Last, a closing comment, if I might, Mr. Secretary. Senator Van Hollen asked about your engagements with your former neighbor, Mr. Epstein. I was encouraged to see your declaration that in 2005, you concluded he was a disgusting man with whom you should have no contact. I wish many others reached that conclusion upon meeting him. But it troubles me that you took your family to lunch on his island, that you had appointments with him. Please disclose everything. Put this to rest, because this is an issue of grave concern to my constituents. President Trump ran on releasing the Epstein files. You said casually, well, I looked at my name and how it appeared in them, as does everyone. No, everyone isn't worried about their names being in the Epstein files. I know he was your neighbor. That was a coincidence. But please disclose everything that's relevant here so that we have a chance to work together and move on.
To the best of my memory, I met him when he moved next door to me, and I met him 2 other times in 14 years, none within 6 years of that first meeting, and then a year and a half later, and none thereafter. And in the presence of my wife, and as Senator Van Hollen said, under no circumstances is there a single word that I've done anything remotely wrong in any possible regard. I did not have anything you could call a relationship, anything you could call an acquaintance. I literally met him 3 times over 14 years with widespread in between. That's all I can remember. That's all there is in the documents. I didn't look through the documents with any fear whatsoever, because I know, and my wife knows, that I have done absolutely nothing wrong in any possible regard.
Well, thank you for answering our questions today.
The reason people are bothered is because last year you said you'd cut off all contact, but there are 8 incidences of interaction in the files after 2005. In 2009, you wanted to speak with Epstein. You asked for his phone number. In 2011, there was the appointment for drinks. In 2012, you were planning a trip to the private island with your family. That sounds like, somebody you know well enough to call up and say, let's get our families together, or let's visit each other. In 2013, the exchange of information about an article relating to intellectual property and gambling, topics that you have an interest in. You both signed up for an investment. It's not clear if you had conversations about that same investment, but you were neighbors. You made the same investment, maybe not. And then in 15, Mr. Paulson, in 2017, Mr. John Paulson wrote to Epstein saying, hey, why don't you contribute to this event? You're a close friend of the Lutnicks, and it's honoring Lutnick. Again, that may not have been you personally involved in that, but I know from many events, when people are raising money, they say, who all do you know that might be contribute if I'm honored? And one supplies a list. And so I guess collectively, it suggests that when you said you cut off all contact in 2005, that was probably not a full and complete.
And it gets more awkward when you compare his testimony to his previous interview with the New York Post. In that interview, Lutnick didn't just distance himself from Epstein, he went full moral high ground. He called him gross. Said he'd never be in the same room with him again. Suggested Epstein blackmailed powerful people. Even speculated there were secret tapes traded for legal leniency.
He was your neighbor for 10 years. How well did you know him?
All right. So we are in number 11 and he lives in number 9.
Right.
So, we we buy our house, and our house is pigeons and mice.
Right.
Okay. It was derelict.
Right.
So we rebuild our house. We move in 2005. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein is arrested in like 08, I think, or something like that.
Right.
So knock on the door. His assistant on like a Saturday says, Mr. Epstein, your neighbor would like to invite you over for coffee. So my wife and I go next door. We walk the 7 steps.
Yes.
Right to the next house for coffee. We share a wall.
Right.
Right. So it's in New York City. So he invites us in. We have coffee in this, and he says, do you want a tour? We said, great.
Interesting.
He's got a really big house.
Every room you went into?
He's got, well, I'll tell you. So his house is like super big, really wide. And, so he gives me a tour in the living room, big living room. And then across from it is double doors. I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors and there's a massage table in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry. We have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
Oh,
so I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
And then here's what Lutnick said about Epstein as well. That, look, the guy's gross. He's a gross person. That's why I didn't want to be around him. So Miranda Devine from the New York Post asks, so then how come people like Bill Gates and all these other people wanted to be around him? Here, play this clip.
I mean, that's an incredible story that you could pick up that he was a pervert.
It's gross. The guy's gross. Right with my wife. He's gross. The guy's gross. This was not, the deep nuance of Howard Lutnick. This guy's gross.
Right. So how come Bill Gates and all these other people could hang around him and not see what you saw? Or did they see it and ignore it? Or
no, they participated.
Right.
That's what his MO was, get a massage, get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume was on video. This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever. Blackmailed people. That's how he had money. So
what happened to those videos? Why is there now such a dearth of information when, Donald Trump's people are running the FBI and the DOJ?
I assume way back when, they traded those videos in exchange for him getting that 18-month sentence, which allowed him to have visits and be out of jail. I mean, he's a serial sex offender. How could he get 18 months and be able to go to his office during the day and have visitors and stuff? It must have been a trade. So my assumption, I have no knowledge, but my assumption is there was a trade for the videos because there were people on those videos.
And have you talked to Donald Trump about this and shared your theory?
No, I mean, he knows the story.
Right.
But my story, that, I was one and done with the guy. He knows that story, but.
Strong words. Very strong words. Which is why senators now want clarity. If you thought he was that dangerous in 2005, why bring your kids to his island after his conviction? Lutnick insists nothing improper happened, nothing was seen, nothing was wrong. He says he searched the files without fear because he knows he did nothing illegal. Still, multiple senators, including Republicans, urged him to fully disclose everything and put the issue to rest. The public concern isn't just about legality, it's about credibility. And then, in classic political whiplash fashion, you flip the channel and see Lutnick on TV talking about how you can feel the power of Donald Trump in the room, how Trump washes over the table with strength, how he's the strongest human being he knows and can wear him out with sheer energy. It's a vibe.
I mean, we see video of you sitting across from your Chinese counterparts. I know there's a lot of respect at the table, but are you kind of kicking these guys a little bit, maybe just a little bit? I mean, what's the atmosphere in that room?
Well, look, the atmosphere in the room is that you feel the power of your man. The president's power, the guy on your side of the table, he's washing all over you. So when he is strong and making the points, you feel good and we're up. So our president is really the strongest, most confident, able to deliver for the American people. And that's why it's so much fun to be on our side of the table. Now, President Xi holds his own, and there's a guy who just doesn't smile much. He is a strong character, and that's the president likes to say, this is a strong character. But I tell you what, the president of the United States holds his own more than holds his own. He holds the room. He is the most important leader in the world. And we felt it everywhere we went, in Japan, in Korea, and then with President Xi. It is fantastic to have Donald Trump be our president, the way he brings respect and he brings the power of our economy everywhere in the world so he can deliver jobs to the American.
And did he let you sleep on the ride home on Air Force One?
I slept for an hour. I did. I slept for one. I slept for 1 hour. He is the strongest. He is the strongest human being that I know. I mean, you know, he can wear me out, and I tell you, I've got plenty of energy, and he just works and works and works. It is a pleasure to be.
Well, go get some sleep, Secretary. I think you guys need it. Great job over there, and this fight with China continues. It's a battle. Thank you.
So here we are. A cabinet official who once said he was repulsed by Epstein, now explaining documented post-2005 contact. A timeline that doesn't quite match the original story. Senators demanding clarity. Reporters demanding answers. And a public still waiting to understand who knew what and when. The big question now, was this a case of fuzzy memory? Or was the original story not the full story? You've seen what happened. You've heard what he said. What do you think?